I think I'm gonna have to go back to when we first opened this store. My husband Mac and I both were, we called ourselves corporate rejects. We'd worked for a company out of Research Triangle Park, Nortel Networks. And after 20 plus years, the company was going under. I'd been laid off and hired back, and laid off and hired back again. And I have just reached the point where I really did not want to get back in the corporate world. And I'd always had this dream of having this country store. And so Mac had been driving around and looking around at different places. And one day he says, I want to take you to Apex. And we came down here, and I tell you, it was a leap of faith because that whole second block where the coffee shop is now was condemned. Where Peak City Grill is now, I think it was condemned. The building next to it was boarded up, and I believe there was another one boarded up on the other side. But we looked at this building, and I have pictures. It was a mess inside. You know, it had been, the ceiling was coming in, and what is the brick wall was covered with plaster and pegboard from when it was a dime store. But I saw those screen doors, and I'm like, that's my country store. You know, so Mac and I look at things sometimes, and we're like, I don't think anybody else sees it, you know, but fortunately we both see the same thing. And this was such a neat little town, and I saw so much potential. And I fell in love with the town. And it's been, you know, from the day one, it's just been such a special place to spend every day of my life since then. I guess just the opposite of my best memory, my important memory is current, leaving here. Uh, it's a, it's very emotional, very sad for me. Being here 19 years, we've gotten to know so many people and watch kids grow up and have kids. And just within the four walls of this store, there's this community. People come in and you hug and you talk about, you know, how's your husband? How's your kids? Our grandson, 3 years ago in 2020, was diagnosed with a rare bone cancer. Our customers were amazing as far as just kind of holding us up and praying for him. And fortunately, you know, he is 5 years cancer free. But there's a community within these walls. When you walk in, and the people that shop in here are special people. And after 19 years, the decision to leave has been a very tough one and very emotional. And I love Apex, but we're moving on, and it's tough. The community in this area, like I had mentioned, the store, the people that come in the store are a family, but not just the customers, but the other shop owners. It still feels like a small town. There's so much growth here, but you feel like you get to know the people down the street. You know the mayor, you know the town council. They come in and they talk to you. They care about what you have to say. And you don't get that in a big city. You don't get that. I lived in Raleigh for 30 years. You don't get that connection in a bigger city that you have right here. That's just downtown Apex, and being a part of this community is definitely home. One of the things I have noticed as a business owner in downtown Apex is over the past few years, downtown Apex seems to be becoming more of a social district. When we first opened, you had Beaver Creek, but there weren't a whole lot of other shopping areas. And people would come down to downtown and go out to dinner or go out to lunch and shop. In the past few years, we've seen retail slow down as it's become more restaurant, bars, and I was on the community, or not the community, I was on the committee for the downtown plan, and I love everything that they're doing. I am concerned, though, that the focus towards creating a more walkable social area is going to hurt retail more. And I just think a downtown historic area still needs a thriving retail sector, and I hope that can continue. Sad to see it slow down the way it has in the past couple of years. So, obviously, we've talked about the fact that we're leaving. When we first did the build out for this store, when we first came in, I mentioned that the brick walls were covered with plaster and pegboard. The floors were this ugly asbestos tile and concrete. So the things that we did is we took down two barns and we put the floors down, we exposed the brick. And it's really interesting because almost every day somebody comes in and they go, "Oh, look at these. These are the original old floors." And I'm like, "No, they're not." And they're like, "Well, how old is this store?" So I have Toby and Warren's Holloman's Pluck, Perseverance, and Paint right across from the counter. And on the front of the book, it shows an empty spot that will one day be this location. And so everybody that comes in, I tell them the story of, the fires that burnt down the town. That if you look at that location, that's where we're now. And this was, that went through the whole history of what this used to be. I'm hoping that whoever comes along next maintains that history. I wonder sometimes, since I get the question so many times, what did this store used to be? I wonder how many other shop owners that haven't been here 20 years know the history of their building, and know that, no, these floors aren't original, but we put them down and they came from a hay barn and a tobacco barn, and the poles overhead were the tier poles, and some people don't know what tier poles are. So you explain the tobacco barn. And I want to make sure that history stays downtown, that the business owners know what their buildings were and are able to share that with people that come in that don't know. I don't want that history to be lost.